I'll try to be quick because this is a long one, and it's part 1 of 2. This vlog is based around a recorded Zoom conversation I had with Rebecca Rossiter, who is the Public Programmes and Learning Manager at Poole Museum. There's loads of stuff in there about creativity, connection, how we're working, how we're using our resources, and how we can make what we're doing part of our future planning and programming. But I start by asking key questions, which is what are you missing about your job before lockdown, what are your challenges, and what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing, obviously, when lockdown first started, we had to basically postpone and or cancel all of the events that we had sort of planned from May to September. So that was quite hard in, just in the very initial stages of having to pretty much sort of put a line through a lot of that work. So I missed that sort of hands-on element of being in the museum space and supporting with the organisation of those sort of activities, because that's just such a core part of our offer under normal circumstances. I think just from a sort of work perspective as well, I miss that creative interaction that you have with your colleagues on a day-to-day basis. And I'm sure we'll go on to talk about kind of how we've been dealing with the challenges of remote working and lockdown. But whilst online chats are great to some extent and very convenient, I think it's just not quite the same as being able to have those incidental conversations and bounce ideas off people. I think you do, you do just end up working a lot more on your own.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I just miss that kind of that buzz that we have normally in the office. It's a big open plan office, and yeah, you just can't recreate that at home, unfortunately.
No, and the Salisbury Museum is very different. It's not an open plan office, but I sort of miss sort of nipping down the corridor to pop my head, a little knock on someone's door and just go, "Oh, have you got a minute?" That sort of thing. And you're putting stuff out without some of that. I find that stuff really reassuring. Just like, I just want to check this with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think because everyone's time has been affected by home working, so for those of us with childcare, our availability is more sporadic or it's different. Some of us are having to kind of work evenings and weekends. So again, there's that kind of lack of coordination in some ways of all being there together at the same time. And I tend to have to be quite focused on the programming and learning side of things, but I sometimes miss being able to dip into what are the volunteer managers up to at the moment, or what are the curators working on. And you get your updates through the sort of team meetings and things like that, but again, I think here and there you just miss those snippets of kind of just the buzz really of working in a museum.
And also, it's like probably some opportunities missed, because you do that, like, oh, well, I'm working, oh, you doing that, or so-and-so's working on this in the volunteer team, you should get them, or, it's all that those things are probably slipping away a bit.
On the plus side, I think there are some good things that have come out of the remote working. I probably have more regular, like small team catch-ups with the programming and learning staff, and we have some casual staff as well who used to miss out a bit on those kind of that regular contact, whereas now it's quite easy for them to be part of that. So you win some, you lose some to an extent.
Yeah. But there are some things, aren't there? It's just like, I was talking to the director at Salisbury, Adrian, and he was just like, I could have been making these videos this whole time. I'm not sure why I wasn't.
And I think that's, because of the strange circumstances that we're all in, there are certain things that may have been put off, be it personal or work, and now it's kind of, there's a reason for us to actually kind of come together and do this. So yeah, it's a very strange one. It's sort of harder to collaborate in some ways, but then easier in others. And
I was reading a thing the other day about sort of psychologically, when your brain's in spin, so you're like having to do new stuff and adjust and things like that you're generally more open to going, oh, okay, well, let's try that then.
So then, building on these kind of positives, I asked Rebecca what she is doing, what she can do at the moment.
But what we've been working on behind closed doors is trying to take that programme and convert it, if you like, to some online activities and resources. So in the initial stages of lockdown, sort of got together online with marketing colleagues as well, and we decided that our strategy was going to be to create a from home page on the website, and then we would use social media to direct people to that page. So that's been sort of where a lot of our efforts have gone, really. And I think the good thing about that is we've been able to build it up quite gradually. To begin with, it was just a few kind of, like, we had our Easter trail went on there, which rather than being a physical trail became a downloadable sort of worksheet. We had a little craft activity that went on there. So that was just in the very initial stages of thinking, right, we would have done this in the museum, we'll put it online.
So if you look at the Poole Museum website, which I have, and in their home section, there's some great stuff. The hands-on history work, which is based on their schools offer, essentially, but for home learning. And some of the collection stuff is really great, and Rebecca's blog as well is really worth a read. But Rebecca goes on to talk a little bit about their family offer, but we tap into something quite interesting around the skills that we are all comfortable with and how they become so much more useful in a situation like this.
So we used to run Museum Music and Mime, which was like a Friday family singing group, and we're lucky to have in the team a really good public programming assistant who's got great design skills, and she's just created loads of really nice sort of song sheets that double up as a colouring sheet for people to do at home. So it is quite kind of sort of resource based, if you like, in terms of takeaway activities and home learning activities. But what's nice about it is there's actually a legacy there as well. You know, there's a really good stock of stuff that can stay on the website.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Back into, so we don't want to lose what we've been doing. And I think the next challenge will be kind of thinking a bit further ahead. You know, how do we find the capacity to sort of still have an offer? It probably won't be quite so frequent, but yeah, we've gone from having a fairly limited online offer to quite a lot of stuff now. So I'm quite proud.
More positives.
Yeah.
It's interesting what you were saying about the member of staff who had good design skills. Do you think that person was using those as much before? Is it, you know, are we finding that people have these skills that are kind of being pushed to the fore that were there anyway?
Yeah, I think lockdown has had this sort of effect really on really drawing out people's talents and strengths, and you know, for a lot of us, you know, it was a weird situation at the beginning. Obviously, it came kind of quite quickly, even though it had been building up around the world. And I think after that initial shock of suddenly having to work from home and not knowing quite what was happening, everyone just took stock for a minute and thought, well, what can I do to contribute? And people wanted to do something. So for me, it was kind of, well, I'm quite good at writing, I think. I enjoy it anyway. I could write a blog. You know, that's just one small thing I could do to sort of contribute to our online content. And yeah, I think for my colleague, I mean, she was using design skills before, but certainly not to the same extent that she is now on such a regular basis. So yeah, it's again, I think in fact I did a blog piece on lockdown and the links with creativity, because I do think it has really helped people tap into some of those former sort of skills and interests and been able to bring them out.
So there are two things that really stuck with me from this conversation. One is that this is a creative moment. If I can hold on to that as an idea, then the work that I'm doing all feels like positive action rather than some sort of substitute. And then also the notion of the value of the personal, and making personal connections with the people we're trying to engage with.
I think the other thing, which was quite nice, again, when things kind of were kicking off at the beginning and no one was quite sure what our strategy was going to be, I did have encouragement from my manager to be creative, to take some risks. I didn't quite know how to pitch it with my blog, because some of it's quite personal. I thought, does anyone really care what I'm getting up to at home? It's not got an awful lot to do with the museum, but as time's gone on, I think I've found my feet with it, and I've found ways of connecting it a bit more to the collections and to programming, and to try and make it sort of relevant to our audiences. But
I think that personal stuff is really valuable, because what we're missing is connection.
Exactly.
So, off the back of talking about the value of the personal, I was thinking about why I got so much out of this conversation with Rebecca, because I felt energised by it. I'm doing this course called COVID-19 Psychological Impacts, Wellbeing and Mental Health, catchy title. And at the beginning of the course, it broke down what's happening to us. We are experiencing loss in some ways, and we are experiencing threat. And when this goes on for a long time, you can't grieve each individual loss, and you can't run away. So what we do is we seek routine, reliability and relationships. And this is true of individual well-being, but for workplace well-being, this is really true. And for those relationships to still be there to support us, then we've got to communicate. So what this conversation represents for me is building structured time to talk beyond the what now, what are we doing next, what can we do, to the how. How are we doing it? And what has changed, and how is that impacting on us? And I think without these opportunities, then innovating and creating new work and establishing a whole new way to be is not sustainable. So I'm going to work to try to build more of these opportunities into my day-to-day. And then I also need to think about what that means for who we're trying to engage with. And I'm going to try to think more about how we can be part of people's routine, how we can be reliable, and how we can use those personal touches that we started to talk about there to be part of personal connection for people. And we start to talk about that more in part 2.